may bow if you wish. If any be a devout lover of God, let him partake with gladness from this fair and radiant triumphal feast. If any be a wise and faithful servant, let them rejoice and enter into the joy of their Lord. If any are weary from fasting, let him now receive his just recompense. If any have toiled from the first hour, let them receive their due reward. If any have come after the third hour, let them keep the feast with thankfulness. If any have arrived after the 6th hour, let him not be in doubt, because he will in no way be deprived. If any have delayed until the 9th hour, let him draw near without fear. If any have tarried even unto the 11th hour, let him not be alarmed because of his delay. For the Master is merciful and gracious, accepting the last even as the first. The Lord gives him rest to him who comes at the 11th hour, as well as to him who toiled from the first. To one God gives, to another he bestows gifts. He accepts the deed and commends the intention. He honors the acts and praises the offering. Enter you then all into the joy of the Lord. Receive your reward, both the first and the last. Hold high festival together, you rich and poor, sober and slothful, celebrate the day. Rejoice together today, you who have fasted and you who have disregarded the fast. For the table is fully laden, let all enjoy the feast. The calf is fatted, let no one go away hungry. Partake all of you from the cup of faith. Receive the riches of God's goodness. Let no one grieve over his poverty, for the universal kingdom has been revealed. Let no one weep over his iniquities, for our pardon, the light of forgiveness, has risen from the tomb. Let no one fear death, for the Savior's death is our liberation. He was held prisoner, and by enduring death has annihilated it. By descending into hell, he has made hell captive. He provoked it when it tasted of his flesh. And so it is as Isaiah foretold when he did cry, hell was embittered when it encountered you in the realm below. It was embittered because it was abolished. It was embittered because it was mocked. It was embittered, for it was slain. It was embittered, for it was overthrown. It was embittered, for it was fettered in chains. Hell took a body and met God face to face. It took earth and was confronted by heaven. It took that which was seen and was overcome by the unseen. O death, where is your sting? O hell, where is your victory? Christ is risen, and you are overthrown. Christ is risen, and the demons have been cast down. Christ is risen, and the angels rejoice. Christ is risen, and life reigns free. Christ is risen, and the tomb is emptied of its dead, not one remains. For Christ, being risen from the dead, has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. To him be glory and power now and forever, from all ages to all ages. Amen.
Hey, buddy. That's good looking son. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you, buddy. Lord alive. We are glad to have you here today. If you will, go on ahead and open to John chapter 11. We'll finish up some stuff on that. And we do have baskets. If you forgot baskets, we do have baskets. Pretty good number of eggs. Don't know the exact number, but I know we filled a huge bin. So to everybody who brought candy to put in them, thank you. And we do have a batch of candy that for adults, if you want to take candy that would not fit in the eggs, we'll have that available for the adults. That way you don't feel left out. So John 11, verse 38, I want to kind of pick up there. It says, Then Jesus, groaning again in himself, came to the tomb, and it was a cave, and a stone was laid against it. And Jesus said, Take away the stone. And Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, I like the old King James, Lord, by now he stinketh. Some modern ones say, now there is a stench. He's been dead 4 days. And Jesus delayed on purpose because there was a belief amongst the Jews that if you got to someone and you had some kind of spiritual power within that 72-hour, 3-day window, that their soul hadn't really left yet, and you could still reanimate them that way. But day 4, it's too late. The soul's gone and the body's there, and no one can do anything now. And so Jesus did this on purpose. And what was it? I don't even remember. I think it was called the Bible or something. Please don't ever tell me anything about Roma Downey doing good Bible production stuff. It's terrible. Because it wasn't ninjas that took swords and killed everyone in Sodom and Gomorrah. That was in that series. But then, and I only ever saw 2 parts of that whole series, and that was more than enough for me. Now, Lazarus one, they had Jesus go in the tomb and get there at the head of Jesus and at the head of Lazarus and like, go wake up. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. And this thing with Lazarus is interesting because he's not just, and if you're a fan of The Princess Bride, he's not just mostly dead, he's really dead. And the fact that everybody's like, no, leave the rock, because it smells bad. And so Jesus says to her, didn't I say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? And they took away the stone from where the dead man was lying, and Jesus, lifting up his eyes, said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said to them, loose him and let him go. Now I've seen movies where, Lazarus came out, his head was uncovered, and he came out kind of foot waddling. He didn't come out foot waddling. You say, well, it's my firm belief that when Jesus commanded Lazarus come forth, that the body stood up, and that he, for lack of a better word, he kind of like levitated out. Because if you understand how they did the wrappings, for anybody who's claustrophobic, put your fingers in your ears. They took these linen cloths and they wrapped them tight. This principle of wrapping bodies like that was something that they picked up during the 400 years they were in Egypt on how to prepare bodies. It wasn't very different from how they wrapped mummies. They wrapped these things tight. And if you've ever been in a place where you can't move your arms, you can't move your legs, and you're wrapped tight that even breathing starts to get hard, that's where Lazarus is. But on top of that, he's got oils and spices and fragrances that now after 4 days, you know what that's done to the fabric? It's made that fabric hard. Dude ain't moving his feet. He isn't moving his arms. Imagine taking gauze and put oil and honey and some different spices that smell good, put them together and let it sit 4 days, and you know what will happen to those pieces of gauze? They'll become real stiff. They'll become real hard. And that's what had started to happen here, because it was a super dry climate. And so this thing where they try and make all this stuff with Lazarus, he came out, he couldn't see, his head was still covered. His body was still bound, so he didn't come out like duck waddling. He literally came forth out of the tomb, and when he gets him to the edge of the tomb, what does he say? Unwrap him, loose him, let him go. And you say, but brother, yeah, I've got to figure, someone was kind enough to give him a jacket to cover back up, once they had unwrapped him. And so this thing with Lazarus, it was a big deal. And here's how big a deal it was. Now, me personally, If I would have done someone's funeral and 4 days later you tell me they're back at home drinking coffee, I want to go and see if you're having psychotic episodes or if you're telling me the truth. But my first thought as the preacher of a funeral is not to say, Ronnie, Tommy, we need to put together some assassins and kill him. That's not my first thought. Yet, as the word of this gets out, look at verse 47. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council together, and they said, what shall we do? For this man works many signs. And if we leave him alone like this, everyone will believe him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. Anytime the church starts to cross that line regularly, where the church says, we need to comply with the government. When you're more afraid of the government than you are of God, you're in the wrong place as the church. And I've had people over the years tell me, brother, you shouldn't preach on that. They'll take away our tax exemption. And in my head, I'm thinking, I know what this property's worth. Pay the property taxes and tell them we really don't care. Oh, brother, we don't want the government mad at us. You understand the fear of the chief priests and other leaders. Instead of saying, how is this guy doing all this? They're and fearing God, they're saying, man, if we don't get rid of this guy, the Romans are going to come and mess with our quality of life. Always double check what you are motivated more by. Fear and love of God, or fear of government and love of comfort. Because fear of government and love of comfort will cost you your eternal soul. And so Caiaphas, being high priest at the time, said to them, you all know nothing. Don't you consider that it is expedient, it is more beneficial for us that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish? Now he did not say this on his own, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And not just for that nation, but also for all that he would gather together in one, the children of God who were scattered abroad. That would be us. Then from that day forward, they planned to put him to death. Therefore, Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there into the country, to the wilderness, to a city called Ephraim, and there he remained with the disciples, and the Passover of the Jews was near. And many went from the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. And they sought Jesus among themselves as they stood in the temple. And they kept asking, what do you think? Will he not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a command that if anyone should know where he is, that he should report it, that they might seize him. And we go on ahead, and as you move into chapter 12, you find that it's not just Jesus that they want to kill, they also want to kill Lazarus. You can't have a guy 4 days dead walking that's got the funeral marker, the grave marker, having tea and crumpets with people. It really messes up your plan. And I bring this back to like the most basic aspect of this, the most basic, fundamental part. Look at how people behave. Some who were there that day still didn't believe that Lazarus came out of the tomb, even though they saw it with their eyes. The political leaders said, we don't want to upset our power structures. Let's get rid of the people that might cause us trouble. And people who were normally good people said, this makes sense. I can still love God and betray good people in order to maintain my quality of life. And so when someone says, why do I need to come to church? Why should I listen to sermons I don't like? Why should I read Bible passages that challenge me? At any point in time, can any of us fall into the same trap that these people did if we're not careful? And the answer is yes. And we should also never be surprised, what? When politicians do wrong things to make sure they maintain their comfort of living and their power structures. Because when you'll deny a man 4 days dead plus all the other miracles of Jesus, and your solution is, let's make sure we send out a squad and get rid of him. And let's put a bounty and tell everybody he's a traitor, that he's a domestic terrorist. You do realize anyone could be labeled a domestic terrorist by our government, and people who had known them their whole lives would turn against them because the government labeled them. So the story of Lazarus, and he said, no, as this moves into our lesson this morning, the story of Lazarus. Lazarus is raised from the dead, but he's not resurrected because Lazarus will die again and have to wait till the end of time. But how you react to people coming back from the dead and ultimately the resurrection of Jesus Christ sets the agenda and your world perspective for eternity.